Good morning, all. It looks like we have some folks still coming in, so we're going to give it a couple of minutes. Sorry, I'm sure you've all just been watching my head go from screen to screen, but that's why. So thanks so much for your patience, and we'll get going here, and let's give it another minute or two. All right. Okay. All right, so it looks like we're doing pretty good with our participant numbers. It looks like there's someone on the phone. Welcome. Good morning. Again, give it just another few minutes, a minute, maybe. I don't want to waste anyone's time. Okay, let's do it. Let's get started, everyone. Good morning. Thank you all for joining us on this Friday. It's a kind of brisk day here in Laramie, and I'm thrilled to be inside and sharing all this awesome information with all of you. So let's get started. Here we are. United We Stand, discuss and construct a brand new program from Wyoming Humanities. To provide a little context, I wanted to share with you that United We Stand, Connecting Through Culture, is a larger National Endowment for the Humanities funded initiative specifically to combat hate violence through cultural engagement. Wyoming Humanities is bringing people together to create opportunities for the public, for our communities, to engage with ideas, with history, and build empathy. I'm going to go ahead and drop in the chat for everyone just a link to the National Endowment for Humanities press release about this program or this initiative of theirs. But otherwise, we can move on to our goals for this, our own program, Discuss and Construct. Before we do, apologies, let me introduce myself. I am Chloe Flagg. I am the Director of Grants and Programs with Wyoming Humanities. Also on the call, we have two other staff members from Wyoming Humanities today. I just wanted to point out our Communications Director, Troy Rumpf, is with us today, as well as our Executive Director, Sean Reese. So thrilled to have them on the call today, and they can also help answer any questions when we get to it. So here we go. So Discuss and Construct was based on the idea that through civil conversation, communities can better come together to solve problems and accomplish goals. Specifically for us, accomplish goals of making Wyoming's communities more welcoming and accepting and just enjoyable places to be, right? So what does this Discuss and Construct program look like? Well, it flows pretty simply. This is the 30,000-foot view of this program, and we'll delve into it as we move through this webinar. So as it may come as a surprise, but there are two parts to this program, the Discuss portion and the Construct portion. So first, your organization will bring communities together to engage in a discussion. We will be providing those topics. We'll get into that in just a minute. And from that discussion, based on that discussion, the group will come together to make a construct plan or a community engagement project. After that project is kind of fleshed out a little bit, you can consult with Wyoming Humanities on that plan, and we can help in whatever way we can, structurally, maybe help with other scholars that could be involved or other community members that could be involved. We won't get in the way. of whatever your community decides to do, but we do want to offer our support. And then the construction will take place. So this program really does happen in two pieces, discuss and construct. And because of that, it happens over two separate events, discuss and construct. So what does the discussion look like? Okay, these are facilitated discussions that will be hosted by one or two members of the community that are viewed as trusted by the community. So I imagine ideally one of the facilitators, or in this case, one of the hosts of the discussion, will be someone from your organization, as well as a scholar or expert, humanities scholar or expert within your community, right? So we do encourage that scholar involvement at the discussion level, and then again at the construction level, we'll talk about that. It's really important that these conversations happen in comfortable and friendly settings where people feel like they can, really engage in a conversation, and ideally in a conversation with someone they may not know, right? So we're encouraging organizations to seek a place for this discussion event that is community oriented. So whether that's a favorite community coffee shop, or maybe that is your library, or maybe it's a community center. Whatever that looks like for your community, we want you to create a welcoming atmosphere where people can really be vulnerable and be themselves and have conversations that they've never had before, right? Part of creating that friendly setting is actually comes from our partner on this project, Living Room Conversations, which we'll get to in just a minute. But part of creating that friendly setting is ensuring that folks attending and participating in the conversation can break bread together, can experience that portion of their humanity together. So part of the funds that we will be giving to you can be used to cover the cost of food and non-alcoholic beverage, which we'll get into when we talk about funding opportunities. So what is Living Room Conversations? It is a nonprofit organization with an open resource format. So everything that they produce is available online for free. We are working with them for these conversations. They are simple and well-structured guides to make complex and sometimes controversial topics accessible for everyone to discuss, right? They help us, these guides help us create a space that is respectful, a space where understanding can occur, and a space where connections can be made, right? These conversation guides are very well informed. They come from a place that is well researched with tested methods for communicating difficult topics, primarily from avenues of mediation, so family mediation, couple mediation, which I think is a really interesting framework for these conversations. Living Room Conversations recommends that in order to have a really fruitful, impactful discussion with folks, we need to keep the discussion size to a smaller number, between 6 to 10 people. Ideally, your discussion this program will be so incredibly well marketed, and your organization is so jazzed about it that, you may have 30, 40 people attend, which would be a dream, right? We're all looking at each other thinking, oh my gosh, that would be so wonderful, right? It would be a dream. So if that happens, everyone will continue to have the same discussion. They'll be working from the same guide, just in smaller groups. And then ultimately, you'll come together at the end of the discussion to build the construct piece, which we'll talk about in a moment. As part of this partnership with Living Room Conversations, Wyoming Humanities will be providing a facilitator and host training with Living Room Conversations. Again, ideally, we'd be working with two hosts, right? And that could be someone from your organization as well as a scholar, or it could be two scholars. So it's really up for your organization to decide what would be most resonant with your community, right? Let's see, discussion topics for these conversations. Like I said, we've chosen three topics, and these really, we believe, from the dozens and dozens of conversation topics that Living Room Conversations has, we believe that these three topics really get to the heart of the larger National Endowment for the Humanities Initiative, United We Stand, which is why they're here for you to choose from. So within the application, your organization will get to sit and reflect on your community and which of these 3 topics might be of most interest to your community, most compelling for your community to discuss. And we want that to really drive your organization's selection of the topic. But let's talk about them. What are they? So community belonging invites us to understand our community and explore where and how we feel that sense of belonging and what kind of impact that belonging brings, right? We know through research that the idea of belonging, the feeling of belonging, is identified as a basic human need, right? Humans are happier and healthier when they feel like they belong, when they feel connected. And when that belonging lacks, it affects our ability to experience life to its fullest, right? So it's a really exciting, interesting topic to explore. I'm sure all of your communities would be interested in delving into that topic. The second is the exploration of American values and ideals, right? So the current climate in America, as you may have felt in your own communities, and certainly as you watch the news, we do seem to have deep disagreements about what are American values and what are American ideals, and where do they come from? How do we understand them? Do they derive from founding documents? Do they derive from the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, or where do they come from, and how do we interact with them, and how do we make sense of them? And most importantly, do we have common ground, or do we not? And can we develop mutual respect for each other around those varying views? And the final discussion topic, free speech and violence, asks us to explore the definition of fighting words, which if you look at the 1942 Supreme Court decision, fighting words against individuals in public are not protected free speech, right? So we're going to unpack what that means, what fighting words means, right? And explore questions about, is too much tolerance dangerous? Or is giving an authority the power to restrict freedom of speech and assembly even more dangerous, right? So I think each of these topics can resonate with any of our communities in Wyoming, any American community, really, for that matter. And luckily, we have really fantastic conversation guides through Living Room Conversations to help us delve into these topics, because they can be heavy, right? So your organization will get the chance to choose from these discussion topics. Then at the end of your discussion event, the group will come together and decide on a construction project. Construction projects are really aimed towards community engagement with these different topics and these different ideas. The project that you choose can vary in size and purpose. It can be a large, multifaceted project with multiple components, multiple people at the table, bringing their ideas, sharing their ideas, maybe even multiple events come out of this. Or it could be as small and meaningful as coordinating a community cleanup day, or the group itself just participating in some sort of community need of covering graffiti or something like that even, right? We ask that your construction projects kind of fall into these categories of either creative, educational, active, or strategic. And I would love to just kind of offer a couple of examples of what those might look like in each of these different areas. And knowing that these are just examples, there will be more examples provided to you within the overview documents available to you after this webinar, as well as within the application. So under creative, you can get creative. Maybe the group creates a poem or a story around themes or ideas that were developed over the course of your conversation, and then that story is printed, maybe in the paper, Maybe it's printed as flyers and shared with community businesses for other people to see, right? It can be that small, that simple. Educational, right? Maybe the group thinks this was really helpful and beneficial, and maybe you want to take this idea of these conversation, this discussion, to underserved community members, right? Maybe you want to go to a living, an assisted living facility. Maybe you want to go to a group home with younger individuals and talk about this, right? Projects can be active. Maybe you want to partner with a local radio station and have participants share their experience in this discussion and share what they learned from each other and how they came out the other side of it. That could be something. And then strategic, right? Maybe you want to draft a policy for your city council that addresses a community need or concern. And then you can, supply recommended action steps and maybe even have a few folks that follow through with people, right? So I hope we can convey to you that the construction aspect of this project is really based on your community's discussions and what your community wants to see, right? We always have that, I'm sure all of you have heard at some point that, well, this is just not working in our community and no one's doing anything about it and there's no way to fix it, right? We feel kind of lost. Well, this is an opportunity to take at least some step, some measure, some direction in solving a community issue, concern, addressing a concern that maybe, came from that larger discussion that you had, right? So we want this portion of the project to really be up to your community, okay? So you have the discuss portion of the project, which is pretty well structured and focused with the help of those living room conversation guides. And then out of those discussions, the group participants get to build this community engagement project, this construction project to support their community, right? As an added piece of this program, it doesn't necessarily really change much for your organization, but it is an aspect of the project that we're very excited about at Wyoming Humanities that you won't necessarily have to do a whole lot for, but we will be putting together a small 15-20-minute documentary about this program, about these discussions, about these community engagement projects. So we will select 2 to 4 groups to feature in this documentary. The filming will take place during the construct portion of the project, so during the community engagement creation of the project. We will coordinate with your organization to, get press releases and image releases for participants, and there will be an opt-out option available, right? Because I'm sure some of you are sitting there thinking, there's no way I'm going to get people to participate in this conversation in this community engagement project if they know they're going to be in a documentary. We understand that. We totally do. But we also understand that we have a really exciting opportunity to showcase and highlight what your community can come together and accomplish. So we're really excited about this piece. If you have any questions about this, let us know, because I understand that it's a little like, I don't know. I don't know about that. Well, we can talk about it more. So let's get into the nitty-gritty. What you all are really curious about, I know at this point, is funding, right? What does it look like? Well, Wyoming Humanities will select 8 communities, 8 organizations to host this program, to facilitate the discussion and to carry out the construction of their community engagement project, okay? Organizations will receive stipends up to $6,500. The best part about this program and these dollars that we're awarding is that there is absolutely no commitment, no need, no requirement for cost share. So your organization does not need to contribute a penny to this project unless they want to. And so I think that this is a really exciting and unique opportunity for some organizations, especially maybe smaller organizations across the state and smaller communities, to seek this program and to host this program, knowing that there's no financial expectation on the organization's behalf, which I think is really important. So the funding will be distributed in two ways. So initially, once your organization has been selected to host the program, we will disperse $1,500 for the Discuss event. And we anticipate that those costs cover, or that $1,500 will cover costs related to hosting the discussion, right? So, a venue, establishing a comfortable, friendly environment, food and non-alcoholic beverage, like I mentioned before, compensating humanities scholars. Hopefully a significant portion of that $1,500 will be used for marketing this event, right? Getting the word out, making sure people know what it is, and hopefully attracting a large number of attendees, right? And then again, once that Discuss portion of the event is completed and the group has decided on their Construct project, you will consult with us. We'll complete a small little interim report together. You'll submit a short preliminary budget for the Construct portion of the project. So what does your group need to carry out their engagement, community engagement project, right? And those funds are available up to $5,000. So you don't have to use that $5,000 if you don't need it, but your projects can go up to $5,000. It's available to you. And then once we have that interim report completed, we've had the conversation, then we will submit to your organization that remaining balance of whatever you need for those construction projects, okay? So now we can delve into some key dates for the project, because it's a big one, right? And I'm sure you're all wondering, oh my gosh, what is the project period for this? What is happening? I don't know what's going on. Don't worry, it's all laid out right here. Monday, our applications for this program will become available. You will have, roughly 2 months to complete that application. So your organization can kind of, sit and simmer and, think about your community and think about the interest of your community would have in this project and whether or not you want to apply, which we really, really hope that you do. November 30th, applications are due. Sometime in mid-December, certainly by the Christmas holiday, we will have program award notifications out. So your organization will know if you're hosting the Discuss and Construct program with Wyoming Humanities. In January of 2024, we will coordinate with Living Room Conversations in all sites to host a training for your facilitator and scholar that will carry out the discussion. That's a really, really exciting opportunity for people to gain some, maybe you can call it professional development, but certainly community development. And then here it is, the project period. So from the time your discussion event happens to the time your construction project is completed is 6 months. So we're asking that those two events take place between February 1st and July 31st of 2024. Again, we discussed that interim report will be due based on your discussion date. So whenever your organization decides to come together for that discussion, they decide on their construction project, we'll have that interim report discussion between us, conversation with us. And then we'll get you funds before, or ideally before your construction event. And then ultimately, after all is said and done, Wyoming Humanities will request that you complete a final report for the program. And this is really just an evaluative measure for us. We want to know what worked on the ground in your community, what didn't work. We may even, ask for participant surveys, which we will build or help you build if you prefer. And then we'll also ask for some final dollar figures as well, what you actually spent on the program. So with that, I'd like us to go ahead and jump right into our Q&A. I know that was real quick. So I want to encourage you all to drop those questions that you have into the chat, and I will be happy to address them as I see them pop up. So would anyone in your office be willing to meet with groups wanting to develop their ideas for this project before applying? Terry, thank you so much for asking this question. 100%. Absolutely. Our door is always open. Our phones are always on. In addition to myself as program director, unfortunately, he was unable to be here today. We have a fantastic program coordinator, Lucas Freilich, and he's kind of taking point on this project. But between the two of us, absolutely, we would love to consult with you. Love to kind of talk through some nitty-gritty details about what might be required or necessary for your organization to host a program like this. So are there any other questions from participants, or maybe Troy or Lucas? Oh, let's see. We have one more. Do we have to have ideas before we apply? Because the community discussion may take us in a different direction. Absolutely. Yes. So we do ask in the application that you get creative and provide us what you think might be something your community or your organization would be interested in carrying for the construction portion of the project, right? We are going to ask you to be a little creative. Again, we'll be providing examples of what we think we'd like to see. But we want to make very, very clear, and I so appreciate this question. I so appreciate this question, Jennifer. We want to make very clear that the discussion portion of the project in particular is very much rooted and based in the community's discussion. So you may have an idea about what your community may want to do or what your organization wants to do for that construction project, but based on the discussion, you may end up somewhere totally different. And that makes us happy. That would make us happy, because that means that thoughts and ideas were shared, and people are using their skill sets to come together to create a truly meaningful community engagement project, construction project. So absolutely, we understand that this is very much a it's going to be a little free flowing there between the discussion and construction, and we understand that, and we're here for it, and it's actually one of the parts of the project that we're really excited about. So thank you for that. Thanks for dropping my email in the chat, Troy, and we'll put that on the screen for you as well. Would you talk more about the number of participants? If more than 10 people want to participate, what are the options? Thank you, Katrina. Absolutely. So we hope, right? We hope that through fantastic marketing and your organization's excitement for this program, that you have well over 10 participants, right? It'd be great if your community had 10 or 20 or 30 people interested in this program, right? If that happens, we would just, again, follow Living Room Conversations advice and break down that larger group, whatever size it is, into smaller discussion groups of that 6 to 10, or in really 4 to 10 size. So 4 to 10 people, again, remembering that in each group that's broken down from the larger group, you're all following the same conversation guide. So you're all experiencing, the same, or being asked the same questions. But I think it's actually kind of exciting to have multiple groups, because you never know what might come out of these different conversations from these different people. But then when you all come together, you'll be able to share out and talk about, what you learned. So yeah, absolutely. Bigger groups is not a problem. You'll just break it down as you go, right? Can you define community? Are we talking whole communities, like whole counties, or communities within organizations? Oh, interesting, Rebecca. I guess when I've been talking about within your community, or your community bringing this program to your community, I've been, primarily focused on the town, the city in which you live. Also understanding that in Wyoming, that includes our rural neighbors, right? A lot of the time. Could you host this program within an organization? That's an interesting question. I'd love to explore that more, about what that means to you. But really, we're hoping to see the construct project really impact or be visible to the much larger town community in which you inhabit. Oh, I'm thinking those living with disabilities specifically. Oh, fantastic. Thank you, Rebecca, for the clarification. That's really an interesting idea. I think there's an opportunity too for some of those discussions in particular to be hybrid. The construct project may take on a different flavor if we're working with folks that can't maybe physically be in the same space together. I'd love to talk more about that with you, Rebecca, and maybe what you're kind of thinking. So let's connect, because I think that's really, really interesting what you've got going on there. Yeah, you bet, no problem. Any other questions right now? I know, like I said, I know I threw a whole bunch of information right at you. It's a lot to digest. I want to reassure everyone on the call, as well as everyone watching this after, this information will be available to you. So this webinar video will be available for you to watch, or refresh yourselves on some particular topics. But following this webinar on Monday, Lucas will be sending out an email to all of those registered for the webinar, and whether or not you were able to attend. And it'll include a link to this webinar video. It'll include a sample application for you to look at before you apply within our grant portal. If you have questions about that process, let me know. There will be a frequently asked questions document, as well as an overview document. So all of this information will be bundled up nice and tight, sent to you on Monday in a nice little email. And hopefully you can share that email out with other members of your organization, or maybe if your organization isn't interested in taking on this program, maybe an organization will, and so hopefully you can share that information with them as well. So are there any other questions here in the webinar that I can help answer before I leave you for the day? I really wanted to keep this nice and concise for all of us, not too much of a time burden on anyone, but I'd love to answer any last minute questions. And I'll also, again, look to Sean and Troy. Are there aspects of the program that maybe I didn't cover, or maybe you think I should elaborate on? Let me know in the chat. Okay. I'm not seeing much activity. So with that, I just want to thank everyone so much. Thank you for attending the webinar. Thank you for your interest in working with Wyoming Humanities to bring humanities programming to your community. Thank you for your interest in engaging with community partners and community members. And please let us know how we can help you. Contact us, reach out anytime. We're happy to help however we can. So yeah, I'll leave that slide up for you to write down some emails. But other than that, I think we're done for the day. And thank you. I cannot wait to see your emails come in. Can't wait to talk with you about this program and what it might mean for your community. So thank you all.